The audience roars in a massive cacophony of yells, gasps, and cheers as two men walk forward onto the stage. The Grand Priest introduces them, his magnified voice echoing across the stadium, clearly to everyone watching. On one side is one of the strongest mortals across the multiverse, a mortal with the power to rival that of the gods, the Pride Trooper known as Jiren. On the other side of the stage was one of the most respected and cunning gods of destruction to ever hold the illustrious title, the God of Destruction of Universe 11 and one of the original Pride Troopers, Belmod. As the audience stands, the Pride Troopers cheer on Jiren, with Topo encouraging his teammates to cheer even harder. It's time to show everyone what the strongest Pride Trooper is capable of. Even Goku is joining in the cheering. Gohan asks his father if he thinks Jiren has a chance of winning as he nods. Jiren was one of the toughest opponents he ever faced. His power was practically overwhelming. Goku was sure he would win. Besides, didn't Whis used to say that Jiren was already stronger than his God of Destruction? Vegeta looks over to Belmod, staring at the deity who is quietly smiling. He looked far too content. The prince wasn't sure this battle would be as clear-cut as they'd like. Jiren appears to have the same thought, looking at Belmod straight in the eyes and asking him why he is so smug. Last he checked, he was weaker than him. Yet, why did he look so confident? Belmod chuckles. If he thought that pure strength is all he needs to win, then mortals would never survive. He may not be as strong as him, but he will win. Belmod takes out a deck of playing cards, and as he starts to shuffle them, with a grin on his face, he asks Jiren if he'd like to play a little game. Jiren closes his eyes, declaring that he has forgotten what he's capable of. As heat radiates from the hero, he tells the god that he will remind him what overwhelming strength is. The Grand Priest's voice booms again, declaring the match begins. Belmod immediately stops shuffling his deck, each card flinging with purple miasma. Belmod yells out, "Here, take a card," as he throws multiple cards at Jiren. However, the Grey Sentinel's eyes bolt open as the cards are struck by the force of his glare. Each of the cards explode as the resulting shockwaves rock the arena. Everyone in the audience stands were shocked. Even Jiren is taken aback just how much power was within those cards. Belmod materialized more cards, asking his opponent to pick a card, any card. The Jester God tosses even more cards at Jiren, but as he dodges the projectiles, Belmod grins. The cards immediately shift directions to return back to Jiren, aiming to strike. Belmod states that he has telekinesis. These cards are an extension of his own body. As the cards hone in on Jiren, Goku yells out for him to be careful. However, something strange happens. Jiren suddenly vanishes. At first, no one could tell where Jiren is gone, not even Belmod. Suddenly, Belmod coughs up blood as the indent of a fist suddenly appears in his gut. Vegeta yells out what is happening as Topo realizes what's happened. Jiren, he's moving faster than the speed of sound. As Belmod continues to get pummeled by punches he cannot see, he scatters his cards throughout the floor. Through a cocky smile, he jokingly questions Jiren if he can run around his little minefield. Multiple explosions ring out as Belmod declares that his stamina will run out at this rate. Jiren closes his eyes as his arms start to vibrate. Jiren's eyes flash as massive roaring winds are created from his hands. They mix with Jiren's immense body, creating tornadoes of pure fire. The vortex sends the cards flying across the arena, consuming them as they explode. The wind and heat envelops the arena as future Trunks remarks that it's as if they were inside of a burning stove. Not even Belmod could shield himself completely from this natural disaster. Realizing he is being backed into a corner, Belmod concentrates his ki into his hands, expanding it as a massive ball of violent energy crackles around him. He holds the chaotic ball of ki at Jiren, demanding that he take this one on for size. Jiren stares at the malignant ki sphere as he calmly places a hand forward. Try something. Belmod grits his teeth, throwing the ki sphere capable of annihilating universes. As the attack reaches Jiren, the giant slows his breathing. Goku stands up, shaking in anticipation if he thinks Jiren is about to do what he thinks he's going to do. The Pride Trooper realizes more of his power, his burning red aura enveloping him. As a crimson dome suddenly materializes, the audience gasps as the dome covers the incoming blast, resulting in an explosion that shakes the arena. No, the entire void dimension they're in. However, despite the devastating energy released, the dome remains standing. As it dissipated, Jiren states how disappointed he is as a cold sweat falls from Belmod's face. Goku is confused, wondering aloud just what kind of technique that was. Caulifla stands up from the stands. She recognized that dome thing. It was that purple back then, but she saw it at the Tournament of Power. One of the Pride Troopers, Colette, speaks up, stating that her observation was correct. That was a variation of her signature move, the Colette Zone, a technique that creates an opening into another dimension. However, she notes that Jiren's version is leagues ahead of her own. She has no doubt in her mind that Lord Belmod's attack would have been completely destroyed by her dimension. Goku can't believe it. The super speed, the dome, was Jiren using moves from his teammates? That's just rude. Who would go around stealing other people's moves and use them all willy-nilly like that? Krillin, Tien, and Master Roshi all stare at Goku with incredulous looks on their faces. Toppo chimes in, stating that after the Tournament of Power, Jiren had started opening up to his comrade. He began trusting them more, little by little, and accepting their strength and resolve. Jiren even went out of his way to request each of the Pride Troopers teach them something, whether it be techniques or advice. Jiren wanted to connect with his teammates, even though he'd never say that out loud, of course. Toppo smirks as he announces that this is Jiren's resolve. The legendary hero of Universe 11 no longer fights alone. No matter where he goes, the will of the Pride Troopers will support him. Jiren is truly the greatest champion of justice the multiverse has ever seen. The Pride Troopers pose majestically as Jiren sighs, although he does give a small smile. As the battle rages on, Belmod does his best to keep his distance. He understands that the battle will be over if Jiren manages to get close enough to strike. The deity uses every single magic trick he could think of in an attempt to even the odds. He materializes several decks of cards and spreads them out onto the field once more, using his magic to hide inside the cards themselves in an attempt to land sneak attack. However, Jiraiya's amplified vision, which he learned from his teammate Casserole, allows him to spot the card Belmod is hiding in and strikes it with a powerful kick. Belmod manifests a pair of yo-yos, performing multiple remarkable yo-yo tricks before sending them flying around the arena. The yo-yos travel at lightning fast speeds, creating craters wherever they land and flying towards Jiren. Yet Jiren manifests massive energy whips, courtesy of his ally V1. That attack, the many rapid yo-yo strikes, the tentacles grab onto the yo-yos, pulling in Belmod as Jiren punches him across the jaw. As the clown god crashes back into the arena, Belmod stands up as he chuckles before breaking out in a raunchous laugh. He can't believe it. Just when it seemed like Jiren had reached his limits, he somehow found a way to break through to new heights. Belmod looked at Jiren in his eyes as he tells him that his master would have been very proud. Jiren stares coldly at Belmod as he asks him why he hasn't given up yet. Belmod shakes his head, claiming that his own sense of justice prevents him from doing something as selfish as giving up. The scene changes as Belmod recalls his past. Millions upon millions of years ago, Belmod was once a mortal, a founding member of the original Pride Troopers. Back then, Belmod was a cocky young punk who, just like Jiren once did, only believed in absolute power. Evil could only be defeated by beating it into the dirt. His own strength and justice was all that was necessary to ensure peace. However, his best friend and fellow Pride Trooper, Gichin, thought otherwise. He believed that through power, he could only be cultivated. He believed that true power could only be cultivated through bonds between people, and it would be through these bonds that justice could be served. It was Gichin himself that gathered a group of like-minded fighters to first fight back against evil. Despite being a loner, Belmod found himself getting closer to Gichin, as he was the only person at the time whose strength he recognized. They developed a bond they thought was unbreakable. However, their conflicting ideologies would result in constant tension and arguments between the two. Belmod did not believe in Gichin's morals, as he refused the ideals that his don't work against the horrors and trials of reality. These conflicting beliefs would cause an enormous strain between the two as they continued to argue on the meaning of justice and the future of the Pride Troopers. Realizing that Gichin and the other Pride Troopers' ideals no longer melded with his, Belmod quit the Pride Troopers. He left in a great fury, writing off their ideals to be naive, ineffective, and ridiculous. Belmod quit the Pride Troopers, eventually starting his own lonesome path towards becoming a god of destruction. Back in the present, Belmod states that he realizes now that Gichin wasn't wrong after all. The events of the Tournament of Power and this match itself prove that. However, Belmod refuses to back down. Belmod looks over to his angel sitting in in the stands, Margarita, as we see another flashback. The younger Belmod is introduced by his master to his new angel assistant as the new god of destruction acts arrogant and rude to Margarita. He didn't think this assistant would be of any use to him and only serve to slow him down. However, over the next several millions of years, Belmod grew to respect Margarita. No matter how much the universe would change, Margarita would remain to ask Belmod about his day, give advice regarding godly affairs, and offer her opinion regarding food. Before he knew it, Belmod valued not only her opinions in regards to the matters of running Universe 11, but also their friendship. That word, friendship, was something he thought he would never experience again, and yet here he was. Belmod frowns as he looks back to Jiren, but he suddenly forms a wide grin. He had something important to protect too. He had a bond that couldn't break, no matter what. The god's key skyrockets as he asks Jiren the Great whose justice he believes will win in the end, his own or Belmod's. Jiren clenches his fists, his power soaring. He would go all out now, no holding back. Belmod grins menacingly. He would use his full power for the first time since becoming a god. He demands Jiren to show him his resolve. He won't fight as a god of destruction. He'll fight as a pride trooper. Today, a pride trooper will die. The two warriors clash and the battle rapidly escalates. The clashing fists and kicks create massive shockwaves as the Grand Priest uses his omnipotent abilities to grant the audience the vision needed to keep up with the fight. Jiren is able to use his brute strength to deal devastating damage to Belmod, but he grows concerned over what he sees. Belmod was slowly improving and adapting. Not only that, he was becoming more manic and hysterical, laughing in delight as the battle raged on. However, despite the change in demeanor, Belmod still retained his acute mind. At one point, Belmod is able to surround Jiren with various playing cards, each one flashing a bright light as the Grey Sentinel is transformed into a playing die. The audience is shocked as Belmod sighs. This wasn't what he wanted to do at first. Belmod requests the Grand Priest to end the match as he is unable to fight, but the angel simply smiles. The match wasn't over yet. Belmod is puzzled until something crashes into his chest. Belmod looks around to see what hit him, only to get attacked in a quick succession. The audience's eyes widen as they realize what happened. Despite being turned into a single die, Jiren continues to fight. Goku laughs nervously, recalling a similar situation that happened to him and Vegeta a long time ago. As the Jiren playing dice repeatedly pummels Belmod, the god becomes furious. He wouldn't allow this joke to go on anymore. He attempts to blast the die, but Jiren the dice simply rolled on the floor, cracking open and unleashing a bright light. With a stellar uppercut, Jiren had returned to his normal form. Belmod's teeth crack from the intense strike as he staggers back. Jiren steps forward, ready to end this match. Yet Belmod chuckles, wags a finger at Jiren, informing him that he should really pay attention to where he's walking. Jiren looks down as his eyes widen. Multiple playing cards were scattered beneath him, and before he could even react, they exploded. The massive blast hurts Jiren greatly as he gets surrounded by a massive cloud of smoke. Belmod takes advantage of the chaos, launching multiple psychic attacks on Jiren's mind. He attempts to whisper discouraging taunts and jeers at the hero while throwing multiple cards and ki blasts at his physical body. Jiren is forced to fight Belmod in two fronts, dividing his attention to the physical and mental battlefields. The Grey hero is barely able to defend himself in a heat dome as he turns to face Belmod, punching him repeatedly in lightning-fast attacks till the god crashes through the dimension. Belmod coughs up blood, standing up with great difficulty as he tells Jiren that he really should have paid more attention. Jiren wonders what he means as he pulls a card from his sleeve, revealing a jack of clubs. Guess where I hid the rest of my cards? Under your sleeves? Over your eyes? Or perhaps in your insides? Jiren's body glows as he realizes what's about to happen. Jiren prepares himself, releasing his ki as Belmod wonders aloud if Jiren is as impenetrable on the inside he is on the outside. The cards explode from within Jiren as blood erupts from the hero's body. All over him is nothing but blood and shredded clothes. Belmod claps, congratulating Jiren for managing to survive a strategy that was that devastating. Belmod remarks that he should be reaching his limit right now, which works out well for him. He just reached his limits as well. Belmod offers Jiren one final bout. No more tricks, no more techniques. Simply a good old-fashioned brawl. Jiren roars as Belmod laughs, the two brutes rushing towards each other. They punch each other recklessly for what seems like an eternity, their strikes tearing muscles, ripping apart clothing and breaking bones. Yet these warriors never waver. Their attacks only seem to become faster, stronger, displaying more brutality than the last. The audience looks on in horror as Topo begins to tear up. His friend was tearing himself apart for them, for everyone's sake, because that's what a hero does. They do whatever it takes to keep people safe. Goku clenches his fists, his own ki rising as he thinks aloud that Jiren can take this. He has to. He absolutely has to. Even Beerus is becoming excited from watching the fight as he thinks to himself that he's never seen Belmod this serious and happy in a fight. He's always known Belmod to be a tough cookie and one of the durable gods. Yet, this also applied to Jiren. He wondered to himself who would be the last one standing in this battle of attrition, who would run out of stamina first. In one final exchange of blows, Jiren and Belmod throw a pair of devastating, burning knuckles that land straight in each other's jaws. The full brunt of their remaining power were contained in these fists. The punches connect as both fighters stand completely still. The gods and mortals in the audience watch in anxious anticipation who would fall first. As both fighters breathe with great difficulty, Belmod lets out a wheezy, defiled chort. He asks Jiren one more question. Did he know where he put his last card? Jiren struggles to think, scanning his body to see where it could be. Belmod shakes as he reaches over to Jiren, grabbing one final bomb from behind his ear. Ace of spades. Is this your card? The bomb explodes point blank at Jiren's head, nearly blasting off Belmod's hand as the gray warrior falls to the ground. A palpable silence fills the air, broken only by Goku, who yells at Jiren to get up. Inspired by this act, Topo, the Pride Troopers, and millions of other mortals scream out to Jiren, encouraging him to stand once more. Their roars echo across the infinite halls of the arena, and yet Jiren remains still. Belmod stands with the defeated Jiren, bloodied and winded. Belmod can't even recall the last time he was hurt this bad, until he finally remembers. Belmod had one final flashback to the day he quit the Pride Trooper. He had nearly forgotten, but he didn't just quit the team. He had one final battle with Gichin. The battle lasted hours, and it was so intense, their old headquarters was completely leveled to the ground. Belmod was just as elated, excited, and cutting back then as he is now. But despite this, back then, Gichin defeated him. That's right, I lost that day. Rising from the rubble of their former home, Belmod dusted himself off as Gichin asked his old friend if he was willing to finally listen to reason. Belmod simply turned away, raising his hand flippantly as he told his former leader that this battle didn't prove anything. All it showed him was that he didn't belong here. He was simply weaker than him, simple as that. At that moment, Belmod quit the Pride Troopers. However, as he walks away, Gichin tells Belmod why he lost. It was because he didn't have anything to protect but himself. The day he learns to value the bonds of his friends is the day he'll never lose again. The former hero grits his teeth as he continues to walk away, discarding his former life forever. However, in the present, standing over the defeated Jiren, Belmod thinks to himself that in the end, Chin was right all along. Belmod looks over to Margarita in the stand, who smiles at him. The Grand Priest makes an announcement. He declares that for the first battle between the gods and mortals, the gods were victorious. Jiren the Grey was defeated. Belmod, the winner. The Kais roar in applause as the mortals face an overwhelming sense of Jiren, one of the strongest mortals in existence. The hero that fought for their safety had lost. What were they supposed to do now? The Pride Troopers cry, lamenting at these accursed circumstances. This can't be the end for Jiren. He was the greatest hero among them. They couldn't stand to see him die. In contrast, the Zenos jumped up and down in joy. That was such a fun match. Oh well, time to clean up. The two Zenos flash their hand as the arena is repaired. Jiren begins to fade away. He opens his eyes as he sees his fellow Pride Troopers cry out his name. Jiren chuckled, apologizing for failing to uphold their justice. Tears fall down from Topo's eyes as he shakes his head. He did a damn good job. He was the best hero for the job, no doubt. Jiren turns to face Son Goku, letting him know that he's sorry he won't be able to give it that rematch. And with that, Jiren the Great disappears to nothing. Belmod sighs, turning away, leaving the arena. Thinks to himself that despite having such an exhilarating match, the win felt far too shallow for his liking. Goku shakes in anger, nearly breaking the stand he's sitting on. He can only hope that the Zenis really didn't get rid of Jiren, because if they did, he didn't know what he would do. Vegeta places his arm on Goku's shoulder, letting him know that the war isn't over yet. This was only the first match, and there were still many more to conquer. Goku nods as the Grand Priest's voice booms over the arena. He declares that the ring is now repaired, and it was time for the next match of the tournament. It was now time for the contestants for the second match to enter the ring. In the second match of the God and Mortal War, Universe 1's God of Destruction, Iwan, versus Universe 7's Piccolo.